would like to welcome you all for today's webinar, Coaching Anti-Patterns and Common Myths. And here we have Shekhar with us, who is going to facilitate this session, and who is himself a certified Scrum trainer and an enterprise transformation coach. And he has 18 years plus of experience. So now I'm looking forward to him so that he can take this journey ahead. So Shekhar, can we start now?
Yeah. Thank you, Namita. So yeah, after a long time, I'm doing this webinar, and so I have something to share. Maybe a small deck of slides. So this is the title, you know about it, and now again there are a lot of definitions and all this. Yeah, a lot of definitions, but again, I picked up from one of this guy. His name is Alexander. What is a pattern is all about? Again, something that repeats over and over again in a given environment. And then, so that's a pattern that repeats. And from this, you know, the opposite of this is an anti-pattern. So something that should not happen, that usually happens all the time, given the kind of agile transformation that we are talking about. So now, what are some of the examples of anti-patterns? Again, if you look at this scenario, let's say I have a coach, and this guy is trying to give a feedback on the daily stand-up or a daily scrum, and then you know what happens. That would be great. And then if you notice this guy is telling that I see some problems in your daily scrum, and then why are you not asking the 3 questions and everything? And then, you know, the client says that he feels really disconnected. And then now if you look at it, now the coach is kind of telling that you have to follow Scrum by book, and you have these 3 questions and all. So if I have to ask quickly, what is this stand called as? Is this an advising or a coaching stance? What is this stance is more of? Is this, so is this more of this one? Is this more of advising or coaching? Yeah, I'm going to answer one question. How did I come up with this name? I'll talk about that in a while for me. So it's, to me, it's more of this guy trying to advise the client based on what he learned in a typical Scrum class. And you know, if you are the client here, how do you feel in the situation? And that's, to me, is more of this scenario, putting this scenario before you. And more importantly, I see this situation repeating pretty often. And most of the times we end up telling people, we end up advising people, and we end up consulting rather than taking a coaching stance. And that's what I see in this scenario. Now, there are a lot of behavioral patterns which I see here. For example, take a context where developers often want to work independently, and everyone work on one user story. And then they sit on the user story until the end of the day or until the last day of the sprint. And you know, finally, your burn down is something like this. Look at this burn down. So the burn down spikes down on the last day. Now, what do you think about this pattern, this anti-pattern? And for how many of you this anti-pattern is getting repeated? And that's what I'm more interested in. How many of you see a burn down like this in your Zero or whatever tool it is? And to me, this is one of the most and biggest reason why I say this, as most of the time when you use a tool or anything like that, when majority of the work usually happens on last 1 or 2 days, now you know what the team is doing. So you should be really lucky to get 1 or 2 steps. And that also, if you're lucky only, you will get it once in a while, just like a festival offer. So this is one anti-pattern where I see most of the burn downs. If you spike down on the last day, if you see they specifically spike down on the last day. So if you are the coach or a scrum master, so what is your approach here? And how do you really deal with such kind of a situation? And quickly, I'll give a few seconds if someone wants to type in the chat. But I'm interested to know your your response in this situation. How many of you have seen a burn down spiking down in the last 1 or 2 days? And what is your approach in such situations? Yeah. And most of the time, and when you use tools like Zira and all, most of the times I see the burn down is pretty much spiking down on the last day. And that is where I see a huge challenge helping teams understand what is that they are doing in the name of Agile. Yeah. So that's what I see always. I see most of the times. Thank you. Now, yeah, shorter stories and frequent updates helps. But most of the time, even the update is also happening. There are so many reasons why a burn down will not spike down until a story is fully getting done. And this is something which I see pretty often. Yeah. So, and one reason which I see is how do you control your WIP? That's one of the biggest challenges that I see with the teams. The next one is, so this is also one of my favorite one. So how about maximizing utilization and reporting planned versus actual hours? So at the end of the sprint, the developers are often questioned on their hour variances. Yeah, you planned a task for these many hours, and finally it exceeded by like 100%, 200%, or whatever it is. So, and then project managers are often worried about keeping everyone busy until the end of the sprint, more of output focused and not outcome focused. So what is your take on this situation? How do you approach this situation as a coach? This is also one of my biggest interesting observation, given the number of teams that I've seen in my career. And to me, this is a big, what I call it as anti-pattern, where when you try to do the same things in the same way and expect different results, you never get a different result, isn't it? So that's something which I learned over a period of time, where people do the same things in the name of Agile, and then they want different results. And that is also very, very, what I call it as a time consuming. At the same time, you don't even really understand where are the real problems are. So one thing which I learned was, if someone is doing this maximizing utilization and reporting hour variances, they are creating a lot of waste. And you know, what are some of the waste in our ways of working? So that's what I usually see as well. And the other thing is, maybe if someone has some questions, you can probably park these questions to at a later point of time. And then I'm happy to explain more about these situations, and we can have a great conversation on this. The other one is, this is interesting, isn't it? So Agile fixed price contracts. And one thing which I learned over and over again, senior leaders say that Agile is only an execution. Agile is only an execution. And you write a traditional contract and execute it in Agile. Again, this is something very, very, one of the frequent questions that people ask me. So how do I do an fixed date, fixed scope, fixed cost, at the same time welcoming changes and execute it in Agile? This is like a question that comes up in every session that I do. Yeah. So again, what is your approach to this situation? Yeah, these situations are really great, but at the same time, if you have what agile principle is this situation really breaking? Anyone wanted to take a quick shot at it? What agile principle is this situation breaking? Or what agile principle are we breaking here? So there is a situation, right? There is an agile principle, and this agile principle this breaks a situation. Sorry, situation breaks one agile principle, one particular agile principle. And anyone know about it? Anyone can give me more into it? So yeah, so if you look at it, the first principle, our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. That is breaking. And the other thing is deliver working software frequently from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. Even that is getting broken here. That's what I'm seeing. Yeah. And the next one is again one of my favorite anti-pattern. Scrum Masters have no idea of Scrum. And I see this again and again. Many people ask me, who is the best person for a Scrum Master? Well, is it a project manager or a business analyst or anyone? So many people ask me, we already have a lot of project managers, we already have business analysts. What should I call as a Scrum Master? I usually say that Scrum Masters are someone who are real experts in Scrum. But nowadays, if I look at a lot of job postings in the market, well, I see so many job postings like I need 7+ years of Java Scrum Master. What? Nowadays, Scrum Masters know everything except Scrum. Yeah, so one of the biggest reason why Scrum implementations don't really kick off in organizations is because Scrum Masters, one of the weakest link in the node, and Scrum Masters do not know what is Scrum, cannot clearly articulate the benefits of Scrum. And I see this over and over again. And we always have lots of challenges understanding the Scrum Master role, because many people do not go to the same school of thought. Many people in the organization, they don't go to the same school of thought. They have varied understanding of what is Scrum Master. And as a result of this, many people think that Scrum Master is a part-timer, or you have a 0.5 Scrum Master, you have a 0.2 Scrum Master. Scrum Masters are there to facilitate a bunch of meetings. Or many people say that what work a Scrum Master has for 8 hours a day. The job of a Scrum Master is to schedule Outlook meetings and book meeting rooms. This is what many people tell me the job of a Scrum Master is all about. But honestly, they have no clue what a Scrum Master is all about. So some of the anti-patterns of Scrum Master that I have observed is the most, he's the most inexperienced developer in the team who is trying to play the role of a Scrum Master without knowing what it is. And then Scrum Masters, and I see this again and again, Scrum Master is more of an rotating role where people take turns to play it. Monday, one Scrum Master, Tuesday, another Scrum Master, Wednesday, another Scrum Master. This is also something which I see this over and over again. Scrum Masters are not empowered. Hey, Scrum Master, you shut up. I just do it my way. I've seen managers telling Scrum Masters like this. And then Scrum Masters reporting to managers, and then they take all the delivery responsibilities, the deadlines and all, now with the Scrum Master. And then designating leftover people, So any manager who doesn't have work, or also have seen many times you have a BA who doesn't have any work, okay, call him as a Scrum Master from tomorrow. Or you have seen most of the times you have seen that tester, hey, this guy is not at all occupied, let him play the Scrum Master role from tomorrow. And this is what I see day in and day out. because of which the Scrum implementation don't take off really well. And then Scrum Masters don't know how to train people on Scrum. Scrum Masters couldn't identify the impediments, or they themselves become an impediment with their own personality. Majority of the people don't have a personality of becoming the right Scrum Masters. Yeah. BA is nowadays being used left and right. Sometimes BA become the Scrum Master, sometimes BA become the product owner, whatnot. I have seen everything in the name of Agile. Yeah. So this is one interesting thought that I've come up with, where if you cannot get the right person in the right role as a Scrum Master, probably your future is not really going to be very bright. That's what I learned over a period of time. And the other thing is, the next anti-pattern, which is one of my favorite, is senior leadership undoing agility. Not intentionally, they are not aware of it. Most of the time, they are not aware of it. But some of the bullet points that I have come up with: leaders asking for traditional reports and metrics. Leaders are mostly output focused. Leaders encouraging rewards like star of the month or a hero of the month or whoever you wanted to call them as. And leaders are the opinion that Agile is only for teams and not for me. So the whole organization, the teams underneath should be Agile. I behave the same way. Our leaders stop learning long back and create a get it right the first time instead of continuous learning environment. No common purpose or alignment between the teams, and then creating systemic dysfunctions that unsettles the purpose of agility, and then governance models that undo agility. There's a lot of governance models when you look at it. Most of these governance models are not complementary to agility. They are acting in the opposite direction. And I don't know what more you have on the list, but this is what I have seen primarily on my list. Where I see in organizations most of the times where leaders are playing their part in maybe undoing agility. And that's what I see. And many of these leaders are not aware of it. And leaders don't attend 2-day trainings and all. Leaders by default have an apprehension that they know everything. And this is what I have seen most of the time. Yeah. Next, if I look at it, anti-pattern, product owner for teams. So 1:1 mapping between the team and the product owner. Okay, one team, one product owner. And then renaming business analyst overnight into product owner. And product owners are not empowered to make decisions. They are meant for writing user stories. So many people ask me, who will write user stories? Who will type user stories? The best typist in the world will type it. So, but they'll be so offended if I say that majority of the user stories are usually written by the development teams. When team write user stories, they have more understanding of user stories. But many people, wow, how does the team know it? Yeah. So now the conversation goes into a different direction. But the idea was very simple. If the team starts writing user stories with the help of the product owner, they develop more understanding of the user story. But at the same time, if the team don't write user stories, well, it's like, okay, tell me what you want me to do. Yeah. So that's it. And then creating a lot of intermediaries as proxy product owner, technical product owner. You have product owner 1, product owner 2, on-site product owner, offshore product owner, you name it. People do all the sins in the name of agility. Just kidding. But that is exactly how things shape up. And I have seen many times happening. And most of the organizations, at least based on what I have seen, they are mostly project-based organizations. And this change is such a big change for many organizations. They literally struggle with it. And that's what I learned with a lot of examples that I have seen. Yeah. Now, blind scaling. This is another thing. So a team that struggles to integrate their own code, now they are scaled. Applied, you impose any framework, any scaling frameworks on them. And then, you know what happens? Now it will you are probably scaling your problems. You are not scaling Scrum or Agile or any framework. And that's what I have seen. And it's such a difficult situation for teams if you apply blind scaling on them, especially the teams with massive technical debt. They're already slowing down, and this imposing scaling framework will create a nightmare for them. And that's what over a period of time I learned applying this scaling. And most of the times, scaling needs to be, I would wanted to call it as a kind of a yardstick that needs to be carefully applied and only when it is needed, or sometimes you have to descale to simplify your problems. And that's what I'm of the opinion that most of the problems, most of the organizations, they take pride in complexity. So, and that's why sometimes in order to simplify your problems, you have to simplify your organization. And that's what I learned over a period of time. You cannot operate with a lot of chaos in and around. For example, in one of the bank that I was coaching, so they have a huge technical debt. They have around like 1,242 defects. And then they call all these defects as minor defects. Their unit test coverage is at like 60%. They don't write a single automation test. And because of which, you know what happens? Now they wanted to, a scaling framework has been imposed on them. A famous scaling framework has been imposed on them. Now, the situation is terrible for these teams where they cannot carry their own load. Now they have to, scale with 8 other teams. They have to integrate their piece with 8 other teams. And to me, that's one of the biggest challenges this team is trying to face. Yeah. And I see this often and often. Okay, I don't want to name any framework for sake of argument, because if I name a framework, there are people who are in favor of it. There are some people who are against it. So now there is a lot of favoritism and everything. So I don't want to refer a framework here, but at the same time, scaling should be, you should be really careful with the scaling. Otherwise, instead of getting benefits of scaling, you end up creating more problems for your teams, and the problems usually becomes bigger. And that's what I learned about scaling. Yeah. Now, some of the common smells, sometimes we feel lazy not doing retrospectives. Sometimes majority of the teams don't even show up for retrospectives. Sometimes people don't come up for daily scrums. Yes, because they don't see a value in that. And I would look at the Scrum Master to help the teams understand the value of each of this meeting. And there's a purpose of each of this. And because of which I see a huge, many team members don't even understand why they are doing certain things certain way. And because of which there is a serious challenge. And then they end up attending these events half-hearted, or they don't even show up, or many times they feel that these meetings are boring, monotonous, and keep doing the same thing. And then, for example, one of the reasons when I was talking to a developer, this guy is a senior developer with 10 years of experience. He told me that, I used to attend the retrospectives for the last 2 years. We write a lot of action items out of this retrospectives, but no one even care to act on these action items. No one even bothers. So now what do you understand out of it? This guy is literally not seeing any value out of such kind of a retrospective. And he was also doing the same thing for review also. So yes, 1 or 2 people throughout the review do a blah, 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 blah. And majority of the other team members, they end up like, okay, at some point of time, I'm going on sleep. So if people are not involved, if people's opinions are not taken, if people are not engaged, they don't love your meetings. They don't want to come to your meetings. And if you look at it, majority of the retrospective meetings also, there is 1 or 2 dominant speakers who do a lot of blah, blah, blah. And everyone are looking at, hey, why am I even here? And that's the stage how retrospectives usually happen. Sometimes you skip retrospectives, sometimes you skip planning meetings, and then sometimes I have seen some Scrum Masters literally they extend the sprints and all. Yeah, I've seen this happening again and again, where the sprint gets extended and then say that, okay, my manager asked me to extend it because, and then sometimes there are some parallel sprints going on for the same team. Yeah, so I mean, if I write the list, the whole slide is not sufficient. And sometimes the parallel sprints, one team working on 2 parallel sprints. Yeah, you imagine what not happens in the name of Scrum and Agile. Yeah. Okay, so now some of the techniques to coach. I mean, my techniques are not very comprehensive, but I'm going to give you a high level idea of what worked for me, what did not work for me. So that's the way how I see it. So now I think everyone here know kind of doing a doctor job. So like a symptom. So let's say you have a cough and you go to a doctor writes in diagnostics test and then identify the root cause of the cough. And then he'll give you a medicine. So without doing a diagnostics test, any test, so if the doctor started giving medicines, he was just doing trial and errors on you. Okay, I suspect it could be a viral cough, or I suspect it could be a bacteria cough, or something like that. So based on that, they do a lot of trial and errors. And we don't even know which is going to work, which is not going to work. Yeah. So, and that's what I see over a period of time. So symptom, root cause, solution. This is one technique that worked for me in the past. With this, you are trying to expose the systemic issues that lie in the, that are the underlying systemic issues that you are trying to expose and see how it works. For example, one of the things that it happened to me, my senior leadership says that everyone in the team are really great developers. And then they have sufficient competency skills to take up any challenge. That was the assumption. And then when we start working around and we will start working around with a few teams, what we found was like 60% of the developers, let's say with 4 teams, if you start working with 4 teams, and then let's say 4 teams has like 10, 12 developers in them, 60% of the developers, based on the day-to-day job, they, for doing a simple, for example, a bubble sorting algorithm, they do a Google search to find out how to write an algorithm. So what does that tells you? So people feel not at all safe to say that, hey, I need some support. I need some training or whatever, some mentoring, or at least I need to pair up with a senior developer. So they don't do it, because of which the assumption on the top was different, and then underlying reality was different. So as a coach, most of the time I try to expose some of these so that in the positive intent, not in the negative intent again. In the positive intent, where these guys have to get some support, and they should feel safe to ask, hey, I need some help. If you're not helping me, probably it is going to impact you in a longer term. So that's why I usually believe in exposing whatever the underlying issues are, rather than trying to hide everything under the carpet. And that is what worked for me in the past. Yeah, I know it was a little painful at the beginning, but as we start making things transparent, you know, the benefits of transparency pays off in a longer run. Because everyone here know what are the problems, how we can help each other move really fast. That's the intent, rather than people, okay, what others think about me if I say that I don't know how to write this piece of code or something like that. So I see this over and over again. And most of the times you also see like people say yes before their manager, and then they come back and say that, hey, you know what? This guy is really, really terrible. They curse behind the back. And that's also something, an anti-pattern, where people don't feel safe to ask for help. And that is one of the behavior that I've seen. Yeah. Okay, the next technique which I wanted to put before you is doing an organizational retrospectives. This is something was very valuable, and for which I take like Juta's techniques to coach. So something that worked for me in the past. What, now what, so what? So kind of a feedback loop. So what is the current situation? Now what should we do? And because of which, how can we really improve? Yeah, so that's to me is really valuable. Yeah, so and these cycles really give us a very good insights of most of the problems that we have, and we also wanted what experiments we wanted to perform. Yeah, that is something which I love over a period of time, where doing a lot of retrospectives, doing retrospectives with the best intent to improve. Yeah, that's something which you can try and see how this is going to work for you, and let me know how this is working. But this is one of the most powerful technique. So what? Now what? And then based on this, so what? How should we take this forward? So that's something. And now what is a small set of actions that we do, and see based on this, what did we learn? And this is also, I call it as one of the continuous improvement framework, which I enjoyed a lot doing this. Yeah. The other thing is you can try some of the coaching techniques. For example, I think many of you here know ICF coaching competency model, or ICF core competencies. And this is something which I see. There is something which we can really enjoy it, and it is a big study by itself. Several months people study all these competencies and then they pay for it. So someone who wants to fix some of these anti-patterns, they try some of these coaching techniques. And then GROW model is something which is famous. And Marshall Goldsmith executive coaching, if someone is not familiar with it, there is something like Marshall Goldsmith stakeholder centered coaching. This has a lot to learn into it. So how do you help your leaders continuously improve? If your leader genuinely wants to improve, hey, you know what? Let's say a leader says that I have a serious problem in delegating tasks, for example, delegating tasks. So that is one improvement a leader wants to improve upon. So how do you deal with it? So this is one area where you can try it. It is a big course by itself, but I learned a lot from Marshall Goldsmith stakeholder centered coaching. A lot of YouTube videos on this, which you can explore it. Now, try systems thinkings and explain the cause and effect techniques. This is something which I know. I took an example of higher velocity, and then you know what happens with higher velocity. So this is one technique where you expose a system again. Hey, if you do this, you are going to get this. So cause and effect. Systems thinking will give you a very good idea of if you do this, you will get this, or if you do this, if you get this. How the connections are, how everything in the system is interconnected to each other. That is what systems thinking is going to give you. And I love this technique. From the time I learned this, I wanted to learn more and more. I wanted to practice more and more. So this is a great technique to expose a system. And this is something which I would recommend everyone to try it. And some of the other facilitation techniques, I don't know how many of you been to an open space, World Cafe, open space agility is also there. There is an open space agility framework to maximize the engagement, where we have an opportunity to listen to everyone and then see how can we maximize the engagement so that it best fits into everyone's agenda. So I always believe in making it their agenda rather than your agenda. Yeah, so I usually enjoy making it your team's agenda rather than your agenda. With that, you increase lot of engagement. And now I wanted to show you a video on how fun therapy change behaviors. So one small video I have to show you. Just hold on, I'm pulling that up. Yeah, it's coming up. Okay, so, right. So if I wanted to share the screen. Yeah. Thank you. So that's more of fun theory. So, and to me, have a lot of fun in your organization so that it helps people to, leave off what they have within themselves, and then they can probably try to collaborate a lot. So that's also something which I learned over a period of time. Yeah. Okay. With that, now, questions. Now I'm open for questions. If someone has some questions, I'm happy to take on. Yeah. So we still have like close to 20 minutes, and then I can take some questions. Anyone? Okay. Yeah, thank you. The fun theory is a new perspective. Yes. Yeah. Even I have it if you maximize engagement, there is a possibility that the behaviors can change really, really well. Yeah. And I saw the great success using fun theory most of the time. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay. ICF coaching. So a lot of, again, in ICF as well, you have ACC, PCC, and MCC as well. So within ICF, a lot of, a lot of levels of coaching. So you can start with the basic one, ACC, and see where you reach at. But the only thing is, the impact of coaching can be only visible when you start practicing it and applying it in the real life. And that's what I learned over a period of time. Yeah. Okay, so if someone is a Scrum Master for 5 years and now move on to Agile coach, what steps or learning will you suggest? So first thing is practice. So now don't try to climb up because to me, an Agile coach is whatever challenges you have as a Scrum Master, you're scaling them up. That. So if you're a Scrum Master for 5 years and if you want to be an Agile coach, see if you can Scrum Master beyond one single team. And then see if what impact you're trying to create there. So impact is more important than just doing it for sake of doing it. So what impact you created? Let's say, for example, before you took over a team, the team was in silos. So you have development, sprint, testing, sprint, and everything. But when you took over as a Scrum Master, well, the team is now cross-functional or fully cross-functional. And that is the impact you created for your teams. And these are the ones which really matters for us. Yeah. So that's why I often say that impacts are more important rather than, yes, I was a Scrum Master and I was doing daily Scrum every day. That's what I do as a Scrum Master. So is there a value of such kind of a Scrum Master to the team? So that's what's, so my first step is practice beyond one team and see if you can learn some coaching, if you can learn some, get into more knowledge on coaching, get into more of what I call them as facilitation. So that's where you start applying whatever you learned for complex situations in your organization. So impacts matter a lot for us. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. So which methods works in non-technical world where we don't code and more? Yeah. So I don't have a different opinion on which will work in IT, which will work in non-IT and all. People are people. And one thing which I usually do is you have to excuse me. So you have to align them to a common objective or a purpose. Even Scrum or any other framework do the same thing. So how do you align them to a common purpose or objective? To me, that's really something which is so important because if you ask people, they run in all directions. And Scrum also talking about how do you hold your team towards a common goal at the end of every sprint. That's, to me, is Scrum is all about, right? One of the difference between Scrum and Kanban is in Scrum, we put a goal and work towards a goal. In Kanban is the flow of a river. Of course, there is much more to Kanban, but simple differences, this is what I understood. Yeah. So yes, I'm willing to learn more and more as I'm experiencing a lot of teams. But so this is one of the simplest thing. So either you use Scrum or use Kanban, use any other framework, the essence is going to be the same. It is the 12 principles of Agile. So where, how do you help your teams from big bang deliveries to develop small, deliver often? It need not be code. It could be anything that creates value to your business or you create business outcomes. So, and then how do you simplify organizations? For example, whether you're IT organization or non-IT organization, your organizations have heavy processes, heavy governance structures, and they complicate everything. And people are more focused on bosses, not on customers. And these are some of the things that anyone can make an impact in organization. And that's what I learned, whether you're a technical or non-technical, it doesn't matter. So there are so many areas of improvement. Yeah. And creating self-organizations within an organization, creating teams that work together, creating more of high-performing teams. To me, that's matters the most. Yeah. So what also I see is that teams don't realize that they have a problem. They just blame the framework. Yeah. Yes, you're right. But the only but we need to understand who is giving that half knowledge to the team. Who is giving that half knowledge to that team? Yeah, many people do not understand the Scrum in the right intent. Is it the framework problem, or it is the way how they perceive the framework is a problem? And that's what I see. Yeah. The next thing is okay. So if Scrum Master, okay, and this also I answered Scrum Master for 5 years. For PMP, are Udemy courses like Andrews or Joseph online courses enough to clear the problem? Yeah, there are so many courses available out there. You can take one course or the other. So the goal is clearing the PMP. So now how you wanted to do it is up to you. Yeah. Okay, so can fun theory also backfire while working in virtual world across cultural diversities? Also, are there any key watchouts to look for while engaging teams? So one thing which I say is too much of something is always bad. So what do you want to do? How do you want to do that? So I would say do your own experiments and learn from it, how it can backfire, how it cannot backfire. So here I would say the context is the real king. So for example, if you are working with American companies, they love fun like anything. At the same time, if you're working with German companies or something like that, or if you're working with any other Asian companies, to them, it is something else. So understand the culture and do your own experiments so that at some point of time, you will learn what will work, what doesn't work. And that's the way how I would approach. Whenever I join a new company, I try to do my own experiments and see what is really working, what is not working, what can I try differently. That's what I would do. Yeah. Okay, so I haven't, Rintu, I have been working in a Scrum team, but most of the teams are still waterfall. Thanks for suggesting various methods of facilitation and clearing anti-patterns. How can I try to practice these facilitation techniques? Yeah. So one, so learning from you doing it. The other thing is watching others do it. So now, which one do you think is better for you? Yeah. So learning you do it or watching others do it. So these are two ways of learning. And I would prefer the first one. See if you can get an opportunity to facilitate a small team, for coffee meetup. Even that is also facilitating. So see how you wanted to do it. So maybe an hour or two, take a topic and see if you can facilitate something and show it back to us and see how you can improve. Work with a mentor. And then, okay, this is the way how I facilitated it. How can I improve from here? And that's the way even I learned over a period of time. Yeah. So now, if you wanted to learn from others, so a lot of YouTube videos are there. You can join a lot of community meetups on Scrum Alliance also. You have a lot of community meetups on Scrum Alliance. So that's other way of learning from others' experiences. Yeah. So any book suggestion for coaching? So yeah, I probably have to refer, but one book that really stands out to me is can I? So there is something like Turn the Ship Around. So that is one thing which blows up my thought process like anything. It really takes me to understand what is coaching is all about, and then apart from that, you have ICF coaching competencies and all. But if you are looking at executive, turn around the ship. Yes, and now I think I got it. So there are some great questions that are being asked at the end of each chapter, and that turn the ship around, and something which I enjoy a lot. So how someone can unlock your perspectives, and that's to me is so valuable. Yeah, but there are so many coaching books out there, coaching ICF coaching competencies and all. There's so many. Yeah, so you can pick a great book and start working towards and see how it works for you. Yeah. So coaching is more of practicing rather than reading it. So the more you practice, the more you get better at it. Otherwise, you're just reading a coaching book to me is like swimming in the water and learn swimming. I mean, jumping in the water and learn swimming only. So I cannot read a book on swimming and jump into the pool and start swimming. No. So coaching is more of practice. It needs a lot of practice where you can practice it and see if you can get better at it over a period of time. And with a mentor, that's what I learned. Yeah. So how do you balance organizational training needs while encourage continuous improvements in the Scrum team? So one thing which I would do is creating a lot of visibility. I don't know if you're aware of the model ADCAR. So ADCAR is one of that model where it's a change management framework: awareness, desire, knowledge, acknowledgement, reinforcement. So that's what I usually use for making it. So one thing is, what are your training needs, making it visible and see what impacts they are going to create, and then see how they are helping you. In one of the organization where I was doing coaching, we always wanted to have a big visible at the beginning, saying that at the beginning of the organization, the reception or something like that. So where we try to help organizations, saying that, hey, you know what, we did this training because of which we created an impact. So, and the more you do it, the more impact you wanted to create. We wanted to create. Are you ready for this? So that is why one of the model that I apply is ADKAR, ADKA, awareness, create a lot of awareness, and get the desire that they wanted to try something. Knowledge, now you start training it, and then acknowledgement, see how they are taking this training inside and how they are applying it, and then reinforcement. Again, based on the feedback, you start improving it. That's the way how I see it. Yeah. So as an Agile coach, apart from Scrum, what other frameworks? So, as an Agile coach, you need to have at least one framework. You should have at least, you should know at least one framework. That's what I would, my opinion is. I could be wrong. If there is more than one framework, yes, you keep learning, but at the same time, if you try to take the essence of this framework versus essence of this framework, they converge somewhere. They all converge to core concepts and principles. Core values and principles. And to me, you take 100 frameworks like that, they all have something in common across them. And that is what I appreciate being an Agile coach. One framework, you should know in and out of it. But apart from that, yes, you're free to learn more and more. But what is more important is the essence of it. Pulling, for example, every framework, according to me, have some set of values. Every framework, according to me, have set of values. So how do these values converge? Every framework, according to me, have a feedback loop. Feedback loop is very important. Without a feedback loop, I cannot imagine an Agile framework. So like this, there are many frameworks. And let's say, for example, every framework has an continuous improvement. Every framework encourages you to improve continuously over a period of time. So everything, there are core values and concepts are same, but they created frameworks to encourage different ways of doing things. That's the way how I see it. Yeah. Okay. After becoming a certified Scrum Master, what is the next step to pursue career in Scrum as an SM? One thing is experience. Certification is important, but certification is not everything. So I would say more of an experience matters, because nowadays you have a lot of certified Scrum Masters, Mandeep. So experience matters a lot. Without experience, it's very difficult for us to get opportunities. That's what even I went through, the same, what I call it as the same path. Yeah. What is the career path of a Scrum Master? I mean, progression level in the corporate organization where project managers have defined career path. So it all depends on how that organizations embraces Scrum or Agile or any other framework. If the organization wants to create a career path for an organization, they can, for Scrum Masters, they can create it. But many organizations, you have a title of a project manager, but you are called as a Scrum Master. You perform the role of a Scrum Master. So many organizations by default give you a career path of a project manager. Well, I don't want to comment good or bad on that, but at the same time, yes, some organizations are taking it seriously. Some organizations are still learning about this role. So yes, but the situation is improved a lot when compared to 5-6 years back when I was a Scrum Master and an Agile coach. So it improved a lot, but still a lot of improvement is needed. Yeah, thank you for that. Team of Teams, this is a great book, goes beyond Agile, etc. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I think that there is also a book called A Wisdom of Crowds or something like that. That is also something which I like. It'll give you a lot of, I mean, the way how teams work with each other. Yeah, there's a lot of team dynamics. It talks about a lot of team dynamics inside. Yeah. So, all right. I think that's all the questions we have. And thank you so much. And you can always reach us for any help that you might need. And I myself always willing to help someone who is really looking for a lot of help. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shekhar, for this insightful session. And we really look forward for more and more sessions. Definitely everybody is looking forward. So, and thank you everyone for attending this session. And for more queries and questions, I was seeing the flow of questions. So more queries and questions, you can visit our OGuild page. So you can interact over there. You can post your queries over there. Definitely we'll answer those queries and what questions over there. So thank you very much once again, and do visit our OGuild page and keep a check on that page too, so that you can be quite informed about the more and more insightful webinars and sessions like this. Thank you very much, Shekhar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And thank you. Be agile, not do agile. That's what I would say. Being agile is different from doing agile. Yeah, many people do agile. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Good night. Take care. Bye.
Yeah.